On May 22, 2011, an EF5 tornado struck the heart of my town, Joplin, Missouri, leaving thousands homeless and over 150 people dead. This area is prone to tornadoes. Tornado sirens sound, but no tornado. This is the case in almost every tornado season here in Tornado Alley. Unfortunately, being accustomed to our normal late spring weather, many people ignored the sirens. This was a problem not only because they were not home, potentially safe in a basement or bathtub, but because they were driving and continuing business down the busiest road in Joplin. This road is where the tornado hit its climax in power, completely obliterating a Walmart and a Home Depot, not to mention several other structures that looked like they disappeared out of thin air. My family was watching the local weather updates on TV right before the tornado formed. The meteorologists at the TV station were giving warnings to all the counties, giving updates on wall clouds and describing what to do for safety in case a tornado hits. Around 5:35 p.m., there were still no reports of a tornado touching ground. 5 minutes later, they picked up a tornado on their tower cam. It was just south of the station. You could hear the fear in the meteorologists' voices. Tears streamed down my mother's face. She already knew what was to come. Search and rescue efforts were completed a couple weeks following the tornado, and now the rebuilding process is slowly getting underway. As the rebuilding process continues, attitudes are shifting towards the hopeful future. Moving on is good, and looking optimistically towards the future helps us get past the ever-present peril and destruction that still sits before us, day in and day out, here in the heart of Joplin. What it doesn't do, though, is help us come to grips with the reality of suffering and grief. In the months to come, hope will overcome grief, sorrow, and suffering. But if we don't dive directly into that pain, attach to it, feel it, and let it go, then that pain will always be looming, waiting to manifest itself in very ugly forms. A Facebook page was made in memory of the Joplin tornado victims. You see these faces, young and old, toddlers and folks in nursing homes, parents and children, and the most prevalent question is, why? Why did these people die? Why this way? I heard several survivors of the storm appeal to and praise God for His grace. I saw signs that said God bless Joplin, and so on. But I can't help but think, what about the people that died? What about the families of those victims? Personally, I didn't know anyone that died, but I have friends that lost friends. Will Norton, whom I had recently met when he appeared on the television show that I work at, was driving home from high school graduation when he got sucked up through the sunroof of his dad's car. His dad was in the car with him and held Will as tight as he could, but the tornado was too much. Will was found dead in a pond a few days later. His dad suffered nerve damage in his arms from holding Will so tightly. He'll suffer much more when he gets out of the hospital. I've always tried seeing the world through a different lens. That lens has always been a bit dusty and out of focus, but now the lens is transparent and clearly focused. What I see is not something about why there is suffering and grief, for I can clearly move around seeing the suffering not only in the area 10 miles down the road from me, but also in Afghanistan when military forces drop bombs on innocent children, when gay high school students across the globe get ostracized and degraded, when people in Africa die because they can't even get clean drinking water. Suffering is inevitable, so what really matters is what we make of that suffering and what that suffering says about us as people. So as the sun sets and the city without power sleeps, the people wait for the sun to rise again so they can prove to be worthy of their sufferings.